In this video, I'm going to teach you how to do a tail whip. Yeah. I'm going to wait until I peak in the air. You got to be fast on your feet. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So I just got out here to this sandy step-up jump and I dusted off the dirt jump bike. It's actually been like probably 2 months since I really had a good session on this thing or done any tricks at all. So I'm super excited to be out here, and I figured while I'm out here, why don't I do a tutorial on how to do a tail whip. I know I've had a bunch of requests on this trick and it's a trick I've been able to do for quite a long time. I'm really curious to see how dialed it's gonna feel today. And we're gonna break down the video in a whole bunch of different ways. First of all, I'm gonna talk about like the perfect bike setup for tail whips. Then we're gonna go into the riding gear you should be wearing. Then I'll go over the basic motions. And then from there, I'm gonna play around on this jump, dial it in, and then we'll really break down details on how to do a tail whip. So let's kick it off. And first of all, look at bike setup. When I'm doing this trick, I'm usually always on my dirt jump bike. The smaller the bike you do it on, the easier it is. A BMX is probably the easiest bike to learn on, but I don't have one, so we're gonna go over how to do it on a mountain bike. So you want a 26-inch dirt jump bike or slope style bike, and a few things you can do to set it up. I make my cable on my rear brake as long as I can without it really being too loose. So I have it so I can wrap the cables around twice before I run out. I feel like that's a good way to do it. It gives you enough to like bar spin and tail whip in the same lap if you're doing multiple tricks. So having a long front cable, just one rear brake. You're gonna wanna be on a single speed bike ideally. One brake, so no front brake. Minimize cables or anything that can wrap around it. And then the biggest thing for tail whipping as well is making sure your cranks don't spin on you. Because when you're doing this trick, you're actually gonna be like kicking your crank arms a bit once you're in the air. And that kicking motion will allow your cranks to spin on you, and you might end up with the wrong foot forward. It'll make it pretty tough to catch your pedals again before you hit the ground. One thing I like to do is make sure my chain is as tight as possible. This makes it so the cranks don't spin so fast. And then another measure you can do to stop the cranks from spinning is put some sort of resistance on the non-drive side. Right now I just did a quick, easy solution. I just threw gaff tape around the non-drive side. I've also seen people use hose clamps, and I've seen some really creative ways you can like put pressure on your bottom bracket to stop those cranks from moving around. But that is a really important piece. Keep lots of friction on those crank arms so the cranks don't just like freely spin really fast. And those are basically the only two modifications you have to do to your dirt jump bike to make tail whips a lot easier. All right, getting into riding gear. I remember learning tail whips and having a few sketchy moments where my shirt almost got cut up on my handlebars just from like that whipping motion because I was not committing. I was like tossing really aggressively off the lip. And inherently, you're gonna do that when you're learning. So make sure you have a nice tight fitting shirt, especially if you have like a button shirt like this. I like this Peter Manning shirt because it's like designed for shorter dudes like me. So it's a really nice fit, nice and warm on a really cool day like today. Like I'm super layered up because we're barely above freezing right now. And then I have an extra layer of jogger pants underneath my riding pants. I got my nice low profile 661 knee pads. And probably the most important piece for learning tail whips in your gear is a good set of ankle braces. The reason I say that is because when you're first learning tail whips and you're kicking off the lip, you tend to also do that very aggressively and not relaxed. And you're probably gonna slam your frame into your ankles. I know I did that a whole bunch. My frame, my cranks, my pedals, depending on where I would actually land. And it was kind of crazy. Like I would have bruises on the inside of my ankles. So definitely wear ankle braces. All right, let's go look at the basic motion you kind of have to figure out before you start catching air on your bike. I'm standing on the left side of my bike right now. I'm gonna whip the bike around counterclockwise and my right foot is forward. It's funny, if you watch people who do opposite tail whips, it always looks a bit awkward with the kick and they're always like in a bit of a weird position even when they're dialed because they're kicking off their front foot, not their back foot. So when you're learning, make sure to kick off your back foot. And being on the left side of my bike with my right foot forward, I'm able to like open up a bit of space, feel out the motion with my arms, and then whip the bike around so it lands right beside me. Keep doing this until you can get like a seamless, smooth motion of bringing your bike around. and that'll help you get the basic feeling of what you want to do with your arms in the air when you're tail whipping. Once you feel good about that motion on the ground, find a jump you're comfortable crashing on, because you will crash. There's no way around it. That's why I'm at this soft step up jump today, because I haven't done this trick in a couple months. Although I'm really confident with it, it's nice to have something a little confidence inspiring when you're feeling rusty or if you're brand new to a trick. So make sure you find a jump that you can be really comfortable on, that gives you good air time, and you know it's a low consequence landing. The really hard part is timing in the air and catching both feet on the pedals. We're gonna go into detail with that later, but for now, let's see how my tail whips are looking after a few months of no practice. The sun's right in my eyes right now, so hopefully it's not too annoying. One thing I forgot with the gear, wear a mouth guard when you can. I feel almost naked without it. I feel so much safer. So when you're learning new tricks, definitely recommend a mouth guard. All right. It's like cold. It's not really shaped to my mouth. That's how cold it is today. Okay, we're good. That landing is so soft. I almost went over the bars just from straight iron. So maybe we'll pack it a bit before we try tail whips. One thing about tail whips is you want to have a really nice solid feeling landing, so when you stomp those pedals you're just riding out smooth. I almost blew off my pedals just going off the jump straight. That's making me a little nervous, but what's important is that takeoff feels really good, so I'm glad we have that. Yeah, one thing to think about, a lot of people don't realize, is trick jumps get to a certain point where they're too soft. That's kind of what's going on here. One more warm up. Let's see if that landing's packed enough now and I can hit it without going OTB or feeling like I'm going to. Way better. All right. So if you saw there, I only caught with my inside foot. And when you get to the point where you have the timing down and the motion down, catching that outside foot is the hardest thing you can learn. And if I'm rusty on a tail up, it's usually the first thing I mess up. We're gonna break down that in more detail, but let's just work first at getting a really smooth tail up dialed in first. Another reason I probably only caught my front foot is because I was a bit nervous. It's been a while, so I tail upped a bit too soon. This time I'm gonna wait a minute, level out more, get right over the handlebars, and then do the motion. All right, you good? Okay, drop. All right, here we go. I landed on my pedals and then just kind of slipped off a bit. Oh man. Yeah, that was better though. I waited a bit there, so I put more commitment into the tail up. Instead of doing it right off the lip, because I was a bit nervous, I waited it out. I waited it so I was level first, and then I got right over my front wheel, and it was more of a just quick motion, really tight to my body. I wasn't back as much. That helps so much. So your outside foot is usually the hardest one to catch. If you look at my pedals, I'm missing half the pins on one side. So definitely make sure to tighten the pins on your pedals. Woo, perfect. That took me 3 tries to get really smooth after not doing them for a while. Some of the common mistakes I was making in those first couple attempts: number 1 was not catching that outside foot. Number 2 was landing a little back tire heavy. And the third thing was just feeling a little stiff and not super fluid in the air with that trick. So let's break down what exactly you want to do and why that's happening. The first thing you want to do when you're tail whipping is really be patient on that takeoff. When people first learn how to tail whip, they are very impatient, they're a little nervous, and the second they get off the takeoff, they immediately kick their bike and they swing their arms right away. And that's never the answer. When you do that, you end up in a bit of a Superman motion with your bike kind of far away from you and up too high, and then you'll never catch the pedals. The trick is to delay that whip motion in the arms and that kick off the cranks, and to really like level out, feel like you're almost floating over top of the landing, and then do it. It's definitely a delay. You want to feel like the trick is happening as you're dropping, not as you're rising. And that takes a lot of commitment, but when you wait for that commitment, it's going to really tighten up your body. All your weight's going to be over the front end. The motion's going to be smoother, simpler, and your likelihood of stomping on the pedals is way higher. Another thing that are common mistakes that people make is they kick too hard with their pedals, which also, like, they kick way too hard off of their crank arms, and that is what causes your bike to swing around really hard and to get you off balance. And I definitely kicked a little too hard those first couple times. I wasn't relaxed enough, and that's why I was having trouble finding that back foot to the pedal. And honestly, I think for every one of those tailwhips, except for maybe like 1 or 2 of them, I did feel like my left leg, which is my outside leg, was swinging out a little too far. So remember to keep your body nice and tight, wait it out, and then just really focus on getting the bike around and then being like, okay, I gotta stomp both feet on the pedals before that landing hits. Really think about what your feet are landing. You gotta be fast on your feet. This is why a soft step up jump or a low consequence jump is so important when you're learning, because you have to be able to 100% commit. So many people, basically everybody, does not fully commit when they're learning, and they can never achieve catching the pedals until they get to that comfort level where they're way over that front end, they're waiting, they're really thinking about where their feet are, and they're not kicking too hard. Some riders kick off their crank arms harder than others. I feel like I'm one of those riders who uses like 90% of my arms, or at least that's what I'm thinking about. But then I go back and I look at the footage and I can definitely tell I am kicking. So don't put your focus on kicking off the crank arms. I see a lot of tailwhip tutorials where this is a tip that they give you, but subconsciously you're gonna do that anyways. So don't overthink kicking off your crank arms. Think about timing, waiting, being relaxed, staying nice and smooth, and right as you feel like you're about to drop down in the air, then that's when you throw the tail up and get right over that front end. To summarize, I'm gonna simplify it for you and break down my mental path as I'm coming into the jump and landing the trick. So I'm rolling into the jump, I'm going off the lip, and I'm fully committed, 100% aggressive. I know in my mind I'm gonna do it, there's no doubt at all. As soon as I'm in the air, I'm gonna be patient, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until I peak in the air. Once I peak, that's when I start to think about swinging my weight forward, pushing off the crank arms, almost like jumping off the bike, not kicking the bike. And then when I get my weight over the stem, that's when I'm doing the arm motion, keeping my weight nice and forward, staying committed, right over the front end, whipping the bike around nice and fast. If your position is right, that motion will naturally whip around really quick. And then it's just a foot game. You want to think about getting your feet to the pedals as quick as you can. The inside foot will always come first, and then so put all your focus onto catching that back foot. And then when you can finally get that back foot, you'll stomp it almost every time. I just want to give a thank you to Peter Manning for supporting this video. I'm really loving these clothes. They fit shorter dudes like me super well, and this has definitely been keeping me warm today. It's been freezing. And those are all the things that I think about when I'm doing tail whips. I know it's a lot to think about. You really have to break it down like one skill at a time and then just go through it and fully commit. It took me months to figure it out. I was stuck catching just my inside foot forever. And then one day it eventually just clicked in my mind, and now I'm so consistent that I can go a few months without doing one. Like today was the perfect example. And then like first, second, or third try, I'll dial it in. It's always there. You don't really lose it. So please let me know if you think I missed anything. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what tips have helped you learn tail whips, if there's something missing here. And thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me on this ride today. And I'll catch you in another video real soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Peace.